Jim Brown was a very trained professional whose main job for the Cleveland Browns was to run with the ball. He did it better than any player before him for 9 years. At 30, when he was at the top of his game, he quit and left a record book full of Jim Brown's names. But was Jim Brown actually good? Stay tuned until the end of the video and let us all find out. But of course, before tuning in, we would love it if you would click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and tap the notification bell for more updates and videos like this one. From 1957 to 1965, Jim Brown is not only the best running back in the history of the Cleveland Browns, but is also the best running back who has ever played football. Until Tom Brady came along, Brown was the best player who ever played football. Jim Brown became a superstar because he was a famous football player and looked good in movies. Brown is famous for his sports, but his greatest legacy may be how he used his fame and position to support social activism. After a great college career in many sports, he joined the Cleveland Browns in 1957. He was the first person to win both Rookies of the Year and League MVP in the same year. In 1963, he was the first player to run more than a mile in a single season. Brown played in the NFL for 9 seasons and led the league in rushing 8 of those times. He never missed a game. Brown left the NFL in 1966 with the most yards, rushing touchdowns, and total touchdowns of any player in NFL history. Brown quit football as the NFL's best paid and most respected player. Then he went to Hollywood and acted in a lot of movies like The Dirty Dozen and Ice Station Zebra. Brown used his time in Hollywood as a stepping stone to become a well-known social activist. He started the Black Economic Union, and with the help of Colin Powell, American, an organization that helps at-risk youth. Jim Brown might be the best running back in Cleveland Brown history, one of the NFL's top 100 players of all time. He is the best running back and the 4th best player overall. Brown was a force to be reckoned with on the field. He could also get his way away from the field. Since he stopped playing football in 1966, he has worked as an actor, a color commentator for NFL games, and maybe most importantly, a civil rights activist. Both athletes and activists still look up to Brown. Here's a look back at Jim Brown's fascinating life. The NFL was very interested in Brown because he was good at college football. The Cleveland Browns took him with the 6th overall pick in the 1957 draft. The league didn't have to wait long to see Brown's skill. In his 9th game, he ran for 237 yards against the Los Angeles Rams. That set an NFL single-game record for 16 years until O.J. Simpson broke it. His score also set a record for an NFL rookie that stood for 40 years. Brown had 942 rushing yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, and 1 receiving touchdown by the end of his first season. Brown set an NFL single-season rushing record with 1,527 yards in his second year as a pro, which he would break again in 1963. At the time, there were only 12 games in an NFL season. Many today's historians wonder what his final record would have been if football had a 16-game regular season the way it does now. In 1958, he ran for more yards than the previous record holder Steve Van Buren of the Eagles, who ran for 1,156 yards. In 1958, Brown also scored 17 touchdowns by running the ball and 1 touchdown by catching the ball. Cleveland had a good year in 1964, ending with a record of 10-3-1. Brown kept getting big numbers. By the end of the season, he had 1,446 yards and averaged 5.2 yards per carrying. Even though Brown led the team with his legs, Cleveland was also a threat in the air. In 1964, they chose Paul Warfield from Ohio State in the draft's first round. Warfield and Brown's quarterback Frank Ryan kept defenses on their toes. Ryan threw for more than 2,400 yards, and Warfield caught 52 passes and scored 9 touchdowns. The three led the team to the championship game where they played the Baltimore Colts. After Baltimore finished the 1964 season with a record of 12-2, the media picked the Colts to win the game by a large majority. The Colts were sure that Johnny Unitas, Lenny Moore, and John McKee would win the game. But Brown wasn't scared. Before the game he said, "We're gonna kick their butt today." Brown's bold statement was proven true when he ran for 114 yards and helped his team beat the Colts 27-0. Gary Collins caught 3 touchdown passes from Ryan, who threw for 206 yards. It was the first time the team had won a championship game since 1955. In Brown's last season, 1965, Cleveland went 11-3 and played Green Bay again in the championship game. This time, though, the team didn't win and lost 23-12 to the Pack. Green Bay shut Brown down, and he could only run for 50 yards. During his 9 years in the NFL, Brown put up numbers that are hard to believe. Aside from his first year in the league, the only other time he ran for less than 1,000 yards was in 1962, his 6th year. During that season, he didn't make it to 1,000 yards. He was the best in many ways when he left the NFL after the 1965 season. The single-season record of 1,863 in 1963 career rushing yards with 12,312 yards all-time rushing touchdowns and total touchdowns were all held by him. He also had 15,549 all-purpose yards, which made him the all-time leader. Brown led the NFL in rushing 8 times in his short time as a pro. Brown still holds a number of NFL records, such as the average of 104.3 yards per game he ran. No other running back has ever averaged more than 100 yards per game on the ground. In 1966, at the Pro Bowl, his last game, he scored 3 touchdowns. As Brown walked away from the game, fans and other players were upset about why he was quitting. In his last season, 1965, he ran for 1,544 yards, which was the second most of his career, and scored 21 times. Brown was also the most valuable player in the NFL that season, and the team made it to the championship game. Even stranger, Brown hadn't even turned 30 yet. History has shown that Brown's decision to retire had nothing to do with injuries or a loss of athletic ability. Few things make some fans more upset than when other sports fans say that a legendary athlete isn't really the best in his sport. Jim Brown is one of these athletes. One man could never stop Jim Brown. Brown is the first athlete in this series, and he swims both the 100 and 200 meters. Brown is not only the best running back the NFL has ever seen, but also one of the best lacrosse players ever. I think this makes Brown the best athlete in more than one sport. When people compare Brown to running backs of today, they often forget that he never played in a 16-game season. He only played 12 games a season for the first 4 years of his career. In his later years, he hit 5 cycles in 14 games. All of Brown's career numbers compare very well to the other great running backs, but the best way to judge an athlete's skill is to see how he stacks up against his peers. And Brown beats them all. Brown did for football what Babe Ruth did for baseball. He changed what people thought a running back could do. Other players have done some of these amazing things or done better, but no one has ever even come close to Brown in every area. At the same time, it seemed completely impossible. Even now, when there are better training plans, health supplements, and many more rules to protect the rusher than when Brown played, no player could ever hope to match Brown's many achievements. Brown's Hall of Fame lacrosse career is the second part of his career that might make him the best athlete of all time in more than one sport. If you look up Brown in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame, the first thing you'll see is, thought by many to be the best lacrosse player ever. How many other multi-sport athletes can you think of who are not only in the Hall of Fame of 2 nationally organized professional sports, but also considered by many experts in each sport to be the best player in that sport's history? The younger sports fans today don't know much about Jim Brown, but this is one fan who will never stop being amazed by how great his achievements are. So, do you think Jim Brown is the best football player ever? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But before we end this video, please do not forget to click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and tap that notification bell for more updates and videos like this one.